Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. And I want to say shalom to everyone that tunes in and listens in on this lesson. And I want to say peace and salutations to all the brothers out there bringing out this truth and with sincerity. And I'm going to do this lesson titled, "And You Shall Be Unto Me a Kingdom of Priests." And I'm going to start with the book of Exodus, chapter 19, verses 1 through 4. And it reads, "In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai." So this is when Moses, he went up to Mount Sinai in Horeb to get the laws, statutes, and commandments. And verse 2, "For they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai and had pitched in the wilderness. And there Israel camped before the mount." Verse 3, "And Moses went up unto Yahweh, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Yasharallah." Verse 4, "You have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagles' wings and brought you in unto myself." So the Lord was saying, you got to remember what I did with Moses, how I brought you out of captivity, out of the land of Egypt, and bared you up on wings of eagles. I'm going to jump over to Isaiah chapter 40. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 23 to 30, 28 to 31. And it reads, "Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting Yahweh, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary? There is no searching of his understanding." So he's talking about his own attributes. The Most High is talking about his own attributes in this precept. Let me read that again. "Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting Yahweh, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not?" See, he doesn't faint. Neither is weary. He doesn't get tired. There is no searching of his understanding. So he never sleeps. He never slumbers. Verse 29, "He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might. He increases strength." So he's the one that gives power to the ones that are weary. Verse 30, even the youth shall faint, Salakia, and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. Verse 31, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." Same thing that he was saying back in the time of Moses in Exodus, how he's going to bear us on wings of eagles, and we're going to run and not faint. And I'm going to go back to the book of Exodus 19 and read from verse 5 through 8. And it reads, "Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine." There, the Most High is flexing again. He says that the whole earth is his. Verse 6, "And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel." So this is what Moses, he spoke these words to our people back at that time. And that's what we're continuing to do, is speak the words of Yahweh. Verse 7, and it reads, "And Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him." And verse 8, "And all the people answered together and said, All that the Lord has spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord." So this was a covenant that he made through our people. He made this covenant and our people agreed to do it. So, we have to remember, the vow that we made and continue steadfast doing the things that we promised that we were going to do. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 5 through 10. And it reads, I just lost my spot. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 5 through 10. And it reads, ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house and a holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Yahweh by Hamashiach Yahushai. Verse 6, wherefore also it is contained in the scriptures, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded. So anyone that believes on Hamashiach Yahushua, you're not going to be ashamed and you're not going to be confounded. Verse 7, unto you therefore which believe he is precious, but unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner. So that stone that was rejected, he became the head of he became our head, the head of the corner. That's Hamashiach Yahushua. Verse 8, and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. So the ones that are continuing being disobedient, the Lord is actually saying they were appointed to this, because he has a number of people that he's appointed to save. He said a third is going to be saved and 2/3 are going to be cut off. Verse 9, but you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Because remember, Hamashiach Yahushua is the light of the world. He says, anyone that follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. And verse 10, which in times past were not a people, but are now the people of Yahweh, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. So now we have access because of what Hamashiach Yahushua has done. But remember, from the beginning, he wanted us, all the men, he had wanted them to be a kingdom of priests. That's what he wanted. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8 through 11. And it reads, Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8 through 11. And it reads, for you were sometimes darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. So we have to walk as children of the light. We got to remember whose we are and what he appointed us, and the oath and the vows we made from the beginning. All these words our people said to Moses, we will do. So we got to remember that and continue doing it. Verse 9, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth. Verse 10, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. So we know that being obedient to what he said, we got to eat this roll. That is what's acceptable unto him. Verse 11, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. So he said for us to correct the ones that are in the darkness. That's what reprove is, correcting them. And I'm going to jump over to Amos chapter 2, verse 10 through 12. Because he chose Yasharallah. This is the good news. He chose Yasharallah from the foundation of the world. So if anyone that's going to be preaching this word, they have to, he said we were the ones that are going to be a kingdom of priests and prophets. That's what he said in the scriptures. Amos 2, verse 10 through 12, and it reads, also I brought you up from the land of Egypt and led you 40 years through the wilderness to possess the land of the Amorite. Verse 11, and I raised up of your sons for prophets and of your young men for Nazarites, It is not even thus, O ye children of Israel, saith the Lord. So this is what he did. This was even Samson back in the time would, he was a Nazarite. You can read that in Judges. And then he was deterred from, walking straight way with Delilah. She got him off the path for a time, but he got back on track towards the end and repented. Verse 12, but you gave the Nazarites wine to drink, because the Nazarites weren't supposed to even drink wine. And then this is twofold. And we're not supposed to take any other ideology, any other false doctrines. We're supposed to remember what the Lord gave us, these laws, statutes, and commandments. Verse 12 again, but you gave the Nazarites wine to drink and commanded the prophets, saying, prophesy not. So this is when our people always went off. But all we have to do is return back to him. Lamentations chapter 4. Lamentations 4, verse 6 through 8. And it reads, Lamentations 4, verse 6 through 8. And I lost my spot. Salakia. Lost my spot. I was in Jeremiah. Lamentations 4, verse 6 through 8. And it reads, for the punishment of the iniquity of the daughter of my people is greater than the punishment of the sin of Sodom that was overthrown as in a moment, and no hand stayed on her. Because everyone knows that story, what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. It's still, they say they see signs of it still burning. The Lord destroyed it. And that's what's going to happen to this spiritual Egypt, this Babylon here. It's going to get destroyed like Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 7, her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body than rubies. Their polishing was of sapphire. So the Nazarites were purer than snow. They were righteous. They were doing, that's all white. It says they were whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body than rubies. So they were, and the ruddy is just like a reddish complexion that all babies, when they come out, they have this reddish complexion. So when he's talking about them being more whiter, they were doing the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. They were just righteous, being righteous. Verse 8, their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered. It has become like a stick. So now he's given a depiction of how they look, how his people look. And I'm going to jump to Daniel 12. Daniel 12 and verse 10. And it reads, Daniel 12, verse 10. Many shall be purified and made white. So this is what white is being purified. You're doing what the Lord is requiring of you. And tried. He says we're going to be tried in the furnace of affliction. But the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. So this is what he said. He said the wicked is not going to understand this Bible, but the wise, they're going to understand. And I'm going to jump over to Hebrews 7, verse 1 through 4. Hebrews 7, 1 through 4, and it reads, for this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High Yahweh, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. Verse 2, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all, first being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. So this was Hamashiach. We know this was him in the order of Melchizedek. Verse 3, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Yahweh, abideth a priest continually. That's why he said he is Alpha and he's Omega. He is the first and he's also the last. He's the beginning and the end. And actually, there is no end with his kingdom. Once his kingdom is established, that's that everlasting kingdom. Verse 4. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the tenth of the spoils. So this is talking about Hamashiach. So we're supposed to follow behind our Lord and governor in that order. And now I'm going to jump over to Hebrews 5 and start at verse 1 through 10. And it reads, for every high priest taken from among men is ordained for men and things pertaining to Yahweh, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. So that was Hamashiach who was given that order from Yahweh to put up his body as a sacrificial lamb. Who can have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way? For that he himself also is compassed with infirmity. Because Hamashiach, he came, and he was came in the form of a man, but he was without sin. But he went through the same infirmities as we all did, but he didn't submit and subject himself to any of it. He stayed obedient. Verse 3, and by reason hereof he ought, as for the people, so also for himself to offer for sins. So he was that sacrificial lamb, and he did it for the sins of Yasharallah. Verse 4, and no man taketh this honor unto himself, but he that is called of Yahweh, as was Aaron. Because that's going back to the time when he sent Moses to go get our people and lead our people out of the land of Egypt. But Moses had a stutter, and he didn't speak eloquently. So the Lord says, well, who gave you that mouth? And who gave you the mouth to speak? And he said, well, I'm going to send Aaron with you so he can interpret for you. So that's why he mentioned this. Verse 5, so also Hamashiach glorified not himself to be made a high priest, but he that said unto him, thou art my son, today have I begotten thee, because he sent him. He was that bread that came down from heaven. So he didn't do anything for any reputation, like it says in Philippians. So he humbled himself and stayed obedient. Verse 6, as he saith also in another place, thou art a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek. And that's Hamashiach Yahushai, who's going to have an everlasting kingdom that's being established. He's actually ushering it in as I speak. Verse 7, whom in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard in that he feared. So he in the Garden of Gethsemane, he got tempted, and he started praying to the Father, and he said, if possible, let this cup pass, but nevertheless, not my will, but let your will be done. So then he got over that fear and that temptation. Verse 8, though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. And he continued on steadfast, and he suffered, but now he's been exalted, and now he's seated on the right hand of Yahweh. Verse 9, and being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. Now that verse 9 is pretty interesting. It says, let me read it again. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. So we have to be obedient to what the Lord is telling us through the precepts. Verse 10, called of Yahweh a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. So it's that order. And there's an order here he established here with the men, women, and children. Here, let's go to the order. 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 1 through 4. And it reads, be ye followers of me, even I also am of Hamashiach Yahushai. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. So Apostle Paul was saying, be You have to be followers of me as I am of Hamashiach Yahushai. He was saying, I'm following in that order as he did. So you have to do it in that order. That's what Paul was saying. Verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach Yahushai, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Hamashiach is Yahweh. See, there's an order. That's that order. Verse 4, every man praying or prophesying having his head covered dishonoreth his head. So this is what the Lord said. He said, every man praying or prophesying having his head covered dishonoreth his head. So this is what the Lord is telling us and giving us the proper order. And from there, I'm going to First Peter. And I'm going to go to chapter 2, verse 1 through 4, and it reads, wherefore laying aside all malice. So he said you got to lay aside all the hatred. So anybody that's, bearing hatred towards a brother or a sister, he said get rid of it. Lay aside all malice and all guile. And if you're lying, he said to quit with the lying, and hypocrisies and envies and all evil speakings. And he said you shouldn't envy one another, because the Lord is going to give everyone their own portion. So all you have to do is seek ye first the kingdom, like he said in Matthew, and all his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Verse 2, as newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word, that you may grow thereby. Because this is how you're going to grow. You're going to have to receive the engrafted word, like James said in chapter 1 of James, which is able to save your soul. And then verse 3, if so be you have tasted that the Lord is gracious. The Lord is good. Now that you know how he is, you have to understand and continue in the order that he put down. Verse 4, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of Yahweh and precious. So we read that in the book of Hebrews, how precious he was in the order of Melchizedek. And I'm going to jump over to John chapter 3. Go to the book of John chapter 3, verse 1 through 5. And it reads, there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. The same came to Hamashiach Yahushai by night and said unto him, Rabbi, we know that thou art a teacher come from Yahweh, for no man can do these miracles that thou doest except Yahweh be with him. Verse 3, Yahushai answered and said unto him, verily, verily, truly, truly, I say unto thee, except a man be born of again, he cannot see the kingdom of Yahweh. And verse 4, Nicodemus said unto him, how can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born? Verse 5, Yahushai answered, verily, verily, truly, truly, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of Yahweh. So we have to be born of water and of the Spirit. And I'll just read down to show what that means. But he said in verse 6, that which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. And then verse 7, this is still red letter, marvel not that I said unto thee, you must be born again. Verse 8, the wind bloweth where it listeth, wherever it goes, and wherever it wants, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh. You don't know where it's coming from, and you don't see where it's going. This is what Yahushua was telling Nicodemus. And whether it goeth, so is everyone that is born of the Spirit. So he said it's like that with everyone that is born of the Spirit. I'm going to jump over to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 26 through 27. And it reads, 26 to 27. Actually, I'm going to jump up to 25. And I'm going to start at 25 to 27. And it reads, Husbands, love your wives, even as Hamashiach also loved the church and gave himself for it. So he says we're married unto him. He gave himself up for us. Verse 26, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water by the word. Verse 27, that he might present it to himself, a glorious church, not having a spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So this is how he wants us to be. If we stick to the order that he put down, this is how you will be. You'll be that you will present yourself a glorious church, having not a spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. I'm going to jump over to Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 14, and it reads, turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married unto you. This is why I mentioned that. See, that's that union. And can two walk together unless they be in agreement? A husband and a wife here, and us being married to Hamashiach. Let me start again. Verse 14. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married unto you, and I will take you one of a city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion. So that's the good news. He's going to save us out of this captivity we're in if we continue steadfast. And I'm going to stay in the book of Jeremiah 3, and I'm going to jump down to 22 to 23. And it reads, return, ye backsliding children, and I will heal your backslidings. Behold, we come unto thee, for thou art the Lord our God, Yahweh. And verse 23, truly in vain is salvation hope from the hills and from the multitudes of mountains. Truly in the Lord our God, Yahweh, is the salvation of Israel. So he's saying all these other hills and these other nations, all these other powerful nations and other people that he didn't call or choose, he said they're doing this in vain. Let me read that 23 again. Truly in vain is salvation hoped for from the hills and from the multitude of mountains. Truly in the Lord our God is the salvation of Israel. So he said this is for Yasharallah. Now I'm going to go to the book of Mark, words of Yahawashi, Mark chapter 7. And I'm going to read verse 7 through 9. And it reads, howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. So that's what this is red letter. He's saying they're doing it in vain. And then it says, verse 8, for laying aside the commandments of Yahweh, you hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups and many other such like Salakia, such like things you do. Verse 9, and he said unto them, full well you reject the commandment of Yahweh, that you may keep your own traditions. So this is speaking of Yasharallah. He says our people need to stop rejecting the commandments of Yahweh, and we need to stop keeping our own traditions. We need to do it in the order that he said to do, in his order, not our way, to do it his way. Remember, he said through Solomon, there is a way that may seem right unto a man, but in the end, it is the ways of death. So we have to get it right. And shalom to Sister Dorothy coming in the chat. Shalom. Yahweh Bashem Mashiach Yahweh Shai. Barakatah. And I'm going to jump over to John chapter 15. John chapter 15 and verse 16. And it reads, you have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you that you should go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever you shall ask of the Father in my name, he may give it to you. So this is a good news. He's saying now, if you're being obedient, he chose us. That's the main thing. He chose us. So if you're going to take petitions to the throne, he's going to answer you if you're being obedient. That's why he said, and whatsoever you ask of the Father in my name, he may give it to you. But remember, John 9:31, he says he doesn't listen to sinners. But if any man be a worshiper of Yahweh and doeth his will, him he heareth. So there's a stipulation to the keys to the answered prayer. Malachi 3, and I'm going to read chapter 3, verse 6 through 7. Let me get to Malachi 3, 6 through 7, and it reads, For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. He never changed. He said, in Hebrews, he says, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. Salakia. So he never changed. Verse 7, even from the days of your fathers, you are gone away from mine ordinances and have not kept them, going back to the time of Moses. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord of hosts. But you said, wherein shall we return? So that's some good. The Lord is waiting on us. And things are moving because 144,000 is just about sealed. So that's why things are happening so rapidly in the world. And I'm going to close with the book of Hosea, chapter 14, verse 1 and 2. And it reads, O Israel, return unto the Lord, thy God Yahweh, for thou hast fallen by thine iniquity. So now he's telling us what happened. He just said, return, like he said with Malachi, just return. And verse 2, take with your words and turn to the Lord. Say unto him, take away all iniquity and receive us graciously. So will we render the calves of our lips. So the fruit of our lips, when we take it to the throne and take those prayers up, then he's going to hear us and he's going to answer us because then we're being obedient. So I hope everyone was edified. This was just a lesson that came out in the spirit. I was just sitting around as usual, getting into the word. And the Lord put this lesson titled, and you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests. So this is what he commanded us to do, to stay in order. And then we will go back to our right estate. And I want to just say the water to everyone that tuned in. And all praises to the Most High. Shalom.